Welcome back to Investing Talk podcast. Today, we are taking a close look at, well, one of the most dynamic, maybe volatile, but certainly compelling sectors out there, Bitcoin mining.
That's right. And we're focusing specifically on CleanSpark, a company that's hit some really extraordinary operational milestones lately. But as often happens in this space, the stock chart paints a, let's say, more complicated picture. Lots of turbulence.
Exactly. So the core question we want to tackle for you, our listener, is pretty straightforward. Based on everything we're seeing, is CleanSpark actually a good buy right now? We're going to try and synthesize their recent, frankly, record-breaking financial performance, their huge operational scale-up, and also those crucial, sometimes contradictory market signals. And that includes, importantly, what the company insiders themselves have been doing recently.
Yeah, it's a balancing act, this analysis. The fundamentals, they suggest really exceptional efficiency and growth. Hard to argue with the numbers.
Yeah.
But you just can't ignore the inherent market risks and, well, the behavior of those closest to the company. It adds another layer.
It really does. And hey, before we unpack this whole complex picture, please do make sure you subscribe, like this analysis, and maybe drop a comment. And definitely, if there's another company or stock you'd like us to look into like this, just let us know in the comments below. Okay, let's start with the good news, the operational success story. Because the past quarter, Q3 2025, it was genuinely record-breaking for CleanSpark. We have to start with those headline financials, right? Record revenue, $198.6 million. That's a staggering 91% jump year over year.
And crucially, that wasn't just empty revenue growth. That explosive top-line increase, it flowed right down to the bottom line. Net income hit $257.4 million for the quarter, which isn't always guaranteed with companies growing this fast. It kind of proves their strategy, securing all that power capacity, deploying miners quickly. It's actually working. They're grabbing market share and making real profit. It wasn't just growth for growth's sake.
Right. And here's where it gets, I think, really interesting for anyone trying to understand the industry structure. CleanSpark hit this huge operational milestone back in June. They became the first public miner to actually achieve 50 exahash per second, using exclusively self-operated infrastructure. Now, maybe for you listening, why does that self-operated bit matter so much? What's the big deal?
Well, that's basically their strategic advantage, their moat, if you like. You see, a lot of competitors rely heavily on hosting models. They pay someone else to run their machines. CleanSpark's approach, this vertical integration, it means they control everything themselves: power sourcing, maintenance, security, optimizing the hardware, and across 4 different U.S. states now. So reaching 50 EHs self-operated, it translates to better cost control and, really importantly, much less counterparty risk. That's a massive edge in such a volatile market cycle.
And they've managed to combine that scale with, well, what many people are calling industry-leading efficiency. We saw their fleet energy efficiency improved quite a bit, down to 16.15 joules per terahash, or JTH. Now, that sounds technical, I know. Can you translate that? What does 16.15 JTH really tell us?
Yeah, think of JTAs as like the miles per gallon for a Bitcoin mining machine. The lower that number, the less electricity you burn to mine 1 Bitcoin. Simple as that. So at 16.15, they are genuinely among the most efficient miners anywhere in the world. And this became absolutely critical after the halving event. Since the mining reward got cut in half, only the most efficient operators, the ones with the lowest running costs, can keep making good margins. CleanSpark is basically lower their break-even point.
Okay, so they're mining efficiently, but they're also managing the Bitcoin they mine really well too, right? The treasury's grown massively, over 12,703 Bitcoin now. And what seems crucial here is how they did it without resorting to equity dilution. They haven't been flooding the market with new shares to raise cash, at least not since late 2024.
And that really speaks volumes, doesn't it? It shows management's confidence in their own ability to generate cash flow internally. Plus, they seem to be getting smarter about managing those assets too. They've introduced this new digital asset management derivative strategy. It's designed to basically earn some extra yield on the Bitcoin they hold, and apparently it's already starting to show some initial returns. So it suggests they're not just focused on mining, but on optimizing the whole balance sheet.
Right, smart moves. Let's talk about future expansion then, because it doesn't sound like they're hitting the brakes at all.
No, not at all. And what's fascinating is how these operational metrics feed directly into their future plans. They didn't just hit 50 EHs and, take a breather. They immediately went out and secured another 179 megawatts of power capacity. That much power supports roughly another 10 EHs in their expansion pipeline. They're clearly thinking several steps ahead. And they're leveraging that geographic diversity you mentioned across those 4 U.S. states.
Yeah, that diversity, nearly 987 megawatts contracted in total, with about 808 deployed right now. That must give them another edge, right?
Absolutely. I mean, partly it's resilience. They're less exposed if there's a power issue in one region, but also their strategic focus on renewable and low-emission energy sources.
Yeah.
That's becoming a major competitive advantage. As big institutional investors get more focused on ESG factors, environmental, social, governance, CleanSpark's greener profile helps attract capital that might otherwise avoid miners seen as less environmentally friendly.
Okay, so operationally, it sounds like a near-perfect report card. Scale, efficiency, smart management, future growth plan. Which brings us to the market reaction, because it's been anything but perfect, hasn't it? If the engine's running this smoothly, why isn't the stock price really taking off?
Yeah, this is the classic crypto miner puzzle, isn't it? The stock price has definitely been volatile, sort of defying those strong fundamentals we just laid out. Technically speaking, as of September 12th, 2025, the stock closed at $10.35.
And we've seen quite a bit of volatility just in the last 3 months. It's been bouncing around wildly. Seems like there's key support down near $7.50, but then it hits this heavy resistance repeatedly around $12.50. It feels almost like the stock is trapped, stuck in this channel.
Well, we are seeing some classic technical consolidation right now. If you look at the moving averages, for instance, the 50-day average, that's around $10, it recently converged with the longer-term 200-day, which is about $9.30. Now, when those lines converge like that, it often signals a big decision point is coming for the price. But the relative strength index, the RSI, is just hovering near 55. That's pretty much smack in the middle, indicating market indecision. So, yeah, the volatility is high, but the price hasn't really picked a clear direction yet. And that leads us nicely into thinking about market sentiment.
Yeah, which raises that critical question. When the company's performance, the fundamentals, look this strong, why is the stock struggling so much to break through that $12.50 resistance level?
And part of the answer, I think, lies in digging into that next layer of analysis. What the insiders are doing, insider activity. It can create a sort of psychological barrier that both retail and institutional investors watch very closely.
Okay, so what are the insiders telling us? What have the transactions look like in September?
Well, the trend we've seen recently is pretty clear. Insider sales have significantly outweighed any buys this month. And there are 2 key examples we really need to talk about. First, the CEO, S. Matthew Schultz, sold about 190,000 shares, averaging around $9.35. And then the president and CFO, Gary Vecchiarelli, sold a really substantial block over 500,000 shares, 509,280 to be exact.
Right. Okay. This is where we need to unpack the potential motives for you listening, because if I just see the CEO and CFO selling stock, my gut reaction is usually negative. But is all insider selling created equal? Could this just be, planned selling related to compensation, like RSU vesting?
That's absolutely the crucial context to consider. RSU vesting restricted stock units becoming available often triggers sales, maybe just to cover taxes or for pre-planned diversification. It doesn't automatically mean they think the stock is peaking. However, when you look at the sheer quantity involved here, particularly that 500,000 share sale by the CFO, you do have to wonder if it goes beyond just routine tax selling.
So the question becomes, is this just a large scheduled vesting event hitting the market, or is it more discretionary? Are executives actively choosing to liquidate shares, perhaps seeing the current price as attractive for taking profits?
And the market often tends to lean towards assuming the latter, the discretionary selling, unless the company explicitly clarifies it's just vesting or tax related. So even if it is partly vesting, that volume of shares hitting the open market adds supply pressure right when the stock is bumping up against that key resistance level. Discretionary selling, or even just the perception of it, suggests that the people who know the company best might think the current $10, $12 range is a decent exit point for them personally. That sends a cautionary signal. It creates that psychological ceiling we talked about, potentially stopping new institutional money from coming in aggressively.
Okay, a really important factor to watch then. Let's pivot now and look ahead. What are the key events or potential catalysts that you, our listeners, should be watching for in the next few months? What could actually change this technical picture?
Well, the calendar gives us some definite dates to circle. The next big one is the fiscal Q4 2025 results. Those are expected around November 6, 2025. Investors will be digging into not just the revenue and profit, but crucially those operational efficiency metrics again. They'll want to see if CleanSpark can maintain those strong margins in this post-halving environment.
And we also need to keep an eye on institutional activity, right? There's the institutional holdings rebalancing coming up September 20th, and then the ETF index rebalancing activity on October 1st. Why are those dates important?
Well, they're important because they can trigger what's called passive flows. Certain index funds or ETFs might be basically forced to buy the stock if its weighting changes, regardless of the immediate fundamentals or that insider selling we discussed. It can create automatic buying pressure. And operationally, alongside the financials, investor focus is going to be locked onto that continued scale-up. Specifically, how quickly can CleanSpark actually deploy miners to fill that extra 179 milliW of power capacity they secured? Acceleration there would be a positive signal.
Okay, so those are the more concrete things. Then we get into the, let's say, more speculative rumors or potential midterm drivers, things that could really shift the narrative if they happen.
Exactly. And probably the biggest whisper out there is the potential for inclusion in the S&P Midcap 400 index.
Now, that sounds significant. Why would that be such a big deal?
Oh, it's huge. If CleanSpark meets the necessary valuation and liquidity thresholds for inclusion, the impact could be massive. It would essentially force all the index funds and ETFs that track the S&P Midcap 400 to buy the stock, often in large quantities, almost instantly. We're talking potentially billions in passive institutional capital flowing in.
Yeah.
That's a fundamental shift in demand, a structural change to who owns the stock.
Wow, okay, definitely something to watch.
Yeah.
We've also heard some market chatter, maybe just rumors still, about them pursuing more major low-cost renewable power deals.
Yes, and securing those kinds of long-term fixed-rate power advantages is possibly the single most critical thing any miner can do right now to lock in future profitability. So rumors about new advantageous contracts suggest they're really focused on cementing that low-cost operator status to the long haul, maybe the next 5 years or more. And finally, there are always those whispers, about a major institutional player like a large U.S. asset manager, perhaps quietly building a significant stake, maybe positioning themselves ahead of that potential S&P index inclusion. Hard to confirm, but the rumors are out there.
Got it. So lots of potential catalysts, some more concrete than others. But now, if we tie this all back to the bigger picture, we absolutely have to talk about the risks. You just can't discuss this sector without acknowledging them.
No, absolutely not. Despite all the impressive things CleanSpark is doing as a company, the elephant in the room is, and probably always will be, Bitcoin price volatility. CleanSpark's earnings, its revenue, its share price, they are all tightly, inextricably linked to the ups and downs of the crypto cycle. Even if they execute perfectly, hit 60 EHs. If the price of Bitcoin drops significantly, their revenues and margins will get squeezed hard. The stock simply cannot decouple from the performance of Bitcoin itself. That's the #1 risk factor, full stop.
Okay, so that's the big market risk. What about company-specific risks? Things tied directly to their strategy.
Right. Well, first, there's the incredibly high capital expenditure, the CapEx, that's needed to keep up this aggressive expansion. Building new facilities, buying tens of thousands of new mining machines. It requires vast amounts of capital, continuously. And tied to that is the external risk of volatility and energy costs. Even if they have good contracts, energy markets can be unstable. A sudden spike in local power rates, even temporary, could seriously impact their mining profitability almost overnight.
And we can't forget the regulatory side either, can we? That always seems to be a potential shadow hanging over U.S.-based miners.
Yeah, definitely. You always have to factor in the potential risk of, well, sudden regulatory clampdowns, or maybe just unfavorable changes in how the U.S. treats crypto mining for tax purposes or energy policy. Things like changes to depreciation rules for miners or new taxes aimed at high energy consumption. Those could dramatically alter the economics for CleanSpark and, frankly, the entire industry in the U.S.
Okay. So let's try and bring all these complex threads together now. On one hand, CleanSpark has delivered truly exceptional growth, profitability, operational scale. They've really cemented themselves as an efficiency leader in the space. But on the other hand, the stock itself remains highly volatile, and we've got that significant insider selling clouding the short-term picture right as the price is hitting major technical resistance. What does this all boil down to for you, the listener, trying to make an informed decision right now?
Yeah, it's precisely that dichotomy. You've got the stellar balance sheet, the strong cash generation, the top-tier operational efficiency. That's the bull case. But weighing against that is the significant insider selling we discussed, and that unavoidable tight link to the unpredictable swings in Bitcoin's price. So putting it all together, our analysis leads us to an overall rating right now of 5.5 out of 10.
A 5.5. Okay, so that rating definitely suggests caution, which seems appropriate given the high-risk nature of the sector. What's the sort of final rationale we should leave people with?
Well, the rationale synthesizes those two sides. CleanSpark is executing almost perfectly on its own strategy, but the sector-level risk, primarily driven by Bitcoin, is just paramount right now. So based on that, we really can't recommend it as a sort of low volatility, long-term buy and hold investment at this particular stage. It seems fundamentally better suited perhaps for short-term trading. And when we say short-term, we generally mean maybe a 6 to 12-month horizon. And even then, it's highly conditional on seeing continued favorable trends in the Bitcoin price itself. It remains a high-risk play, even compared to other miners.
Makes sense. Well, thank you for joining us for this analysis today. We've really dug into CleanSpark's impressive operations, dissected those efficiency metrics, and looked hard at the technical and institutional hurdles it's facing right now.
Yeah, we've definitely seen a company that's positioning itself very strongly, aiming to be an industry leader through that aggressive expansion and focus on low-cost operations.
So here's maybe a final thought for you to mull over as you watch this unfold. CleanSpark seems to have done everything operationally right to potentially qualify for that S&P Midcap 400 inclusion we talked about. That event could trigger massive passive institutional buying. The question is, if that index inclusion does happen, could even significant insider selling by executives, whether it's for diversification or compensation, actually halt the momentum driven by those huge, potentially mandatory institutional flows? That's the really interesting scenario to think about as you watch the chart in the coming months.